I stood in the middle of my brand new living room, the smell of fresh paint still clinging to the air, the kind of smell that screams new beginnings. The polished wooden floors gleamed under the chandelier I had picked out with so much care. Balloons floated lazily against the ceiling, and the long dining table groaned under trays of food I had spent all night preparing: mac and cheese, smoked brisket, cornbread, red velvet cake, everything my family loved. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My housewarming. My dream home. 10 years of sacrifice, saving every dime, working double shifts, eating instant noodles for weeks just so I could put away one more payment toward this place. And I had invited them, my family, my parents, my sisters, my brothers, even my cousins. I imagined the laughter, the clinking of glasses, my mom hugging me tight and saying she was proud. But the clock ticked past the hour. Then another. And no one came. Not one car pulled up the driveway. Not one knock on the door. The chairs I'd lined neatly in the backyard for guests stood empty, the lights strung across the fence twinkling uselessly into the night. My phone buzzed once. A short text from my older sister, Rachel. "Sorry, we can't make it. Things came up." That was it. No explanation. No apology. Nothing from anyone else. I sank to the floor in my perfect, beautiful, empty house. I had never felt silence so loud in my entire life. 10 years of dreaming. 10 years of waiting. And when the moment finally came, they abandoned me. And that was the moment I made a decision. A decision that would change everything. A decision that would turn me into someone I didn't even know I was capable of becoming. But before I tell you what I did next, let me take you back to where it all started. If you're listening right now, don't forget to like, watch, and subscribe, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about family, loyalty, and revenge. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old, born and raised in Texas. I come from a big family, 2 brothers, 3 sisters, and parents who never let me forget I was the middle child, the one who somehow never did enough. Growing up, we weren't poor, but we weren't comfortable either. My dad, James, was a truck driver. He was gone for days, sometimes weeks at a time, and when he came home, his presence filled the house with both excitement and fear. He had a temper, loud, sharp, and quick to explode. My mom, Linda, was the glue that held us together, but she favored the firstborns. Rachel and Michael could do no wrong, while I was always compared, always falling short. It was during high school that I learned what it meant to be invisible. While Rachel was crowned prom queen and Michael made the football team, I worked nights at the local diner, pouring coffee into chipped mugs and pocketing tips. Nobody noticed the girl saving her paychecks in a shoebox under her bed. Nobody asked why I was so tired in class or why my clothes always looked a little older, a little worn. By the time I graduated, I had already decided I wouldn't let anyone decide my worth again. I'd build something of my own, something so undeniable that even my family would have no choice but to see me. That's when the dream of owning a home was born. Not just any home, a house that screamed independence, security, and pride. So, while my siblings went on vacations, bought new cars, and lived on credit, I took a different path. I rented a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, ate the cheapest food, worked 2 jobs, teaching during the day and waitressing at night. Every time I got a paycheck, I put something aside. Little by little, dollar by dollar, year after year. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if it was even worth it. Nights when I felt so lonely, I almost broke. And yet, through all the birthdays I celebrated alone, through all the times I watched my family gather without inviting me, through every holiday dinner where I felt like the outsider, I kept going. 10 years. 10 long, brutal, beautiful years. And finally, the dream became real. I signed the papers. I held the keys. I stood in front of that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with its red front door and wide porch, and I whispered to myself, "You did it, Emily. You did it." But as life has a cruel way of reminding us, even dreams can turn into nightmares. Because on the night I thought I would finally be seen, on the night I thought my family would finally celebrate me, they didn't show. And that night wasn't just about disappointment.
No.
That night planted something dark inside me. Something I couldn't ignore. And I can't believe I'm about to tell you this. But what I did after that empty housewarming, well, it led to blood. It led to police sirens, courtrooms, and whispers of murder. And it all started with a knock on my door that night. A knock I wasn't expecting. The knock echoed through the house, sharp and heavy, like whoever was behind it wanted to split my brand new door in two. I froze where I sat on the floor, surrounded by untouched plates of food and unopened bottles of champagne. My hands trembled, my heart pounding in my chest. It couldn't be my family. No, if they cared, they would have come hours ago. They would have texted, called, something. Whoever was at that door wasn't there to celebrate. I stood up slowly, every step across the polished wooden floor creaking like it wanted to warn me. Don't open it, Emily. But I did, because I had nothing left to lose. When I turned the knob, the porch light flickered above me, casting shadows across the face I hadn't seen in over a decade. It was Daniel, my ex, the man I once thought I'd marry, the man who broke me so badly I swore I'd never love again. He looked older, worn down by life, his eyes hollow yet piercing. He smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile that carried secrets. 10 years, Emily, he said softly. And you finally did it. Your dream house. I swallowed hard, gripping the doorframe for balance. What are you doing here, Daniel? How do you even know where I live? He chuckled, stepping forward as if the invitation was already his. Word gets around. Your family talks more than you think. That was when the bitterness rose in my chest like bile. My family.
So, they did talk about me.
Just not to me. Not with me. They knew I bought this house. They knew tonight was special. And still, they didn't come. But Daniel, of all people, did. I should have shut the door in his face. I should have told him to leave. But something in me, loneliness, anger, curiosity, pulled me back. I let him in. He walked around slowly, his hands grazing the walls, his eyes scanning the furniture like he was inspecting treasure. You really did it alone. No husband. No kids.
Just you.
There was a sting in his words, like he wanted to remind me of everything I didn't have. But I stood taller. That's right. Just me. I didn't need anyone else. He stopped in front of the dining table, staring at the untouched food. So, where are they? Your family? The question cut deeper than I wanted it to. I forced a laugh, though it cracked in my throat. They didn't show. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Not one of them. After everything you did for them all these years. And that's when it hit me. He was right. Everything I did for them. The babysitting, the loans I gave Rachel when she couldn't pay rent, the nights I picked up Michael from jail after his bar fights, the times I swallowed my pride just to keep the peace. I gave and gave and gave, and when it was my turn, nothing. I sank into the chair at the head of the table, my hands clutching the edge so tightly my knuckles turned white. Not one of them. Daniel poured himself a glass of wine from the bottle I had opened for the celebration that never happened. He sat across from me, his eyes glinting in the dim light. You know, he said slowly, family's funny. They take you for granted until you stop giving. Then suddenly they notice. I studied his face, trying to figure out what he was really saying. What are you getting at? He leaned forward, lowering his voice to a whisper. Make them notice, Emily. Make them regret every single time they overlooked you. You don't owe them forgiveness, you owe yourself revenge. The word hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. Revenge. It was like he had cracked open a door inside me that I had been holding shut for years. And I hated to admit it, but part of me wanted it. Desperately. But before I could respond, before I could even think of what revenge might look like, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Rachel. It was my younger brother, Jacob. The message was only 5 words long. Don't trust anyone. Especially him. My stomach dropped. My eyes shot up at Daniel, who was watching me carefully, his smirk still lingering. What did he say? Daniel asked. I slid the phone face down on the table, my pulse racing. My brother had barely spoken to me in years. Why now? Why warn me? And why about Daniel? I forced a shaky smile. Nothing important. But inside, every nerve screamed. Something was wrong. Something bigger than just an empty housewarming. Something I hadn't seen coming. And then, before I could process anything else, the sound of glass shattering erupted from the kitchen. Both of us shot to our feet. My dream home. The place I thought was my safe haven. Someone was inside. And this time, I wasn't sure if I was the prey or the predator. The sound of breaking glass tore through my house like a gunshot. My chest tightened, and every instinct screamed at me to run. But this was my home, my dream, my 10 years of sacrifice. I wasn't about to let anyone destroy it. Daniel glanced at me, his expression unreadable, then strode toward the kitchen as if he owned the place. My heart hammered. Every step he took made me question Jacob's warning even more. I followed, gripping a heavy candle holder from the dining table like it was a weapon. The kitchen light flickered, casting eerie shadows across the granite counters. That's when I saw it, shards of glass scattered across the floor. The window over the sink had been smashed open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the faint smell of smoke from somewhere outside. And standing in the middle of my kitchen, holding a crowbar, was my brother.
Jacob.
My baby brother. The one who had texted me just moments earlier. His hoodie was pulled over his head, his face pale, his eyes wide with desperation. "Emily," he gasped, lowering the crowbar slightly. "We don't have much time. You need to get away from him." My head spun. I tightened my grip on the candle holder, torn between the man beside me and the brother in front of me. "Jacob, what the hell are you doing breaking into my house?" Daniel's chuckle cut through the tension like a blade. "Oh, this is rich. Your family doesn't show up to your party, but your brother smashes his way in. Nice housewarming gift, don't you think?" Jacob ignored him and looked straight at me. His voice shook. "Emily, listen to me. He's not here by accident. He didn't just show up.
He's been planning this.
He's after your money, your house, everything." The room spun. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Daniel stepped closer to me, his smile gone now, his voice sharp. "Don't listen to him. He's the one you shouldn't trust. Ask yourself, why didn't he come through the front door like a normal person? Why sneak in through the window? Think, Emily." My hands trembled so badly, I thought I'd drop the candle holder.
"Both of you, stop."
"Just stop." But neither stopped. Jacob's eyes burned into mine. "Why do you think the family didn't show up tonight, Emily? Why do you think they all turned on you? It wasn't because they don't care. It's because he, Daniel, told them not to. He's been feeding them lies about you for months." I turned sharply to Daniel. "Is that true?"
His jaw tightened.
His silence was louder than any confession. That was when something inside me cracked. The years of being overlooked, the pain of tonight, the emptiness of sitting alone in a house filled with food no one touched, it all boiled over. I raised the candle holder high, not sure if I was about to swing at Daniel or Jacob. But before I could decide, Jacob lunged forward and shoved me to the ground. A gunshot ripped through the air, deafening and violent, the bullet splintering the cabinet behind where I had been standing. For a split second, the world slowed down. Smoke curled from the barrel of the pistol in Daniel's hand. His face was twisted with something dark, something I had never seen in him before. Jacob scrambled to pull me up. "Run, Emily." But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My dream home, the place I thought would be my sanctuary, had become a war zone. Daniel pointed the gun again, this time steady, his voice calm and cold. "No one's leaving. Not until we finish this." And in that moment I realized, this wasn't just about a housewarming. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about survival. Daniel's hand didn't shake. The gun was steady, pointed straight at Jacob, then at me. My chest heaved, panic clamping around my ribs like a vice. The chandelier light flickered above us, and for a second, it felt like the whole house was holding its breath. Jacob shoved me behind him, his arms spread wide. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." Daniel sneered. "Don't be dramatic, kid. You're not her hero. You've been using her just like the rest of your family. Don't act like you suddenly care." The words sliced deep. I looked at Jacob, desperate for him to deny it. His eyes darted, his jaw tightened, but he didn't answer right away. That pause told me more than his words ever could. Jacob, my voice cracked. Is that true? He lowered his arms slowly, his face twisted with guilt. Emily, I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. But his voice broke. The family, they wanted money. They thought you'd share once you got the house. When you didn't, they turned on you. They sent me here to get into your safe. The floor felt like it vanished beneath me. My family, my own blood. All those years of giving, helping, sacrificing, and still, I wasn't enough.
They hadn't just ignored me.
They had plotted against me. I backed against the counter, shaking my head. You broke into my house for them? After everything I've done for all of you? Tears brimmed in Jacob's eyes. I tried to warn you. I sent the text. I didn't want you to trust him. He's worse than any of us. Enough, Daniel barked, slamming the gun on the counter. The sound rang out like thunder. This isn't story time. Jacob, you screwed up bringing the truth into this. Now you've put us all in a corner. The rage in his voice froze my blood. I forced myself to steady my breath, even as my insides quaked. What do you want, Daniel? Why are you really here? He smirked, pacing slowly, like a predator circling its prey. You think your dream home is just about you, Emily?
No.
You've been saving money, keeping it hidden, not trusting banks. You always were paranoid. And now, his eyes glinted. Now that money is mine.
My throat went dry.
He knew. He knew about the shoeboxes, the envelopes, the hidden stash I had built for emergencies, tucked away inside a false wall in my bedroom closet. I had never told a soul. How do you know about that? I whispered. Daniel tilted his head. Let's just say your family sings like birds when the price is right. Betrayal burned through me hotter than fire. My family hadn't just abandoned me tonight. They had sold me out. Jacob stepped forward, fists clenched. You'll have to kill me before you touch a dime of hers. Daniel's lips curled into a cruel smile. Gladly. Before I could stop him, the gun went off again. The blast shook the room. A ringing filled my ears, and Jacob collapsed to the floor, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. No! I screamed, dropping beside him. My hands pressed against the wound, tears streaming down my face. His eyes fluttered, pained, but alive. Stay with me, Jacob. Stay with me. Daniel raised the gun again, this time aiming directly at me. His voice was low, final. Say goodbye, Emily. But just as his finger tightened on the trigger, red and blue lights exploded through the window. The screech of tires, the crackle of radios, the bark of orders filled the night.
Police.
Daniel cursed, spinning toward the shattered kitchen window. You called them. But I hadn't. I hadn't touched my phone, which meant someone else had. The front door burst open with a deafening crash. Police. Drop the weapon. Daniel whipped the gun back toward me, his eyes wild, his face twisted. And I knew, in that split second, that he'd rather kill me than be taken alive. I closed my eyes, bracing for the shot. And then, bang. But this time, it wasn't his gun. The gunshot rattled the air, sharp and final. For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe, couldn't even open my eyes. I expected pain, fire tearing through my chest, my dream house turning into my grave. But when I forced my eyes open, it wasn't me who had fallen. Daniel staggered backward, his pistol clattering to the floor, his hands clutching his side. Dark red spread quickly across his shirt. His face twisted with rage and shock, and he collapsed against the kitchen counter. The officers stormed in, shouting commands, their weapons aimed. Don't move. Hands where we can see them. Daniel groaned, blood dripping onto my new tile floor, his eyes burning into mine. This isn't over, Emily. You think you're safe, but you're not. Not from me. The words chilled me deeper than the night air rushing through the broken window. Even wounded, even surrounded by police, his voice carried a promise of something bigger. 2 officers dragged him away, cuffed, bleeding but alive. Another officer knelt by Jacob, who was pale and trembling on the kitchen floor. "We need an ambulance now." I clung to Jacob's hand, tears streaking my face. "Don't you dare leave me. Not you too." He gave me a weak smile, wincing. "Guess I ruined your housewarming, huh?" Despite the blood, despite the fear, a laugh broke out of me, half relief, half hysteria. But deep inside, anger burned hotter than ever. When the paramedics rushed Jacob out on a stretcher, I finally sat down on the cold floor, my body shaking. The officers asked me questions, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. Daniel's words echoed, "This isn't over." And then, something worse. Jacob's confession replayed in my head.
My family had betrayed me.
They hadn't just abandoned me that night, they had used me. They sold me out to Daniel, fed him details about my money, my life, my sacrifices. The people I had loved and served my whole life had handed me over to a man who would have killed me. That night, after everyone left, after the flashing lights faded and the silence returned, I sat in my living room surrounded by the ruins of what was supposed to be my happiest day. The shattered glass, the bloodstains, the ruined food, it all felt like a reflection of me. I picked up my phone, scrolling through my family group chat. Dozens of unread messages glared back at me. Not one was from tonight. Not one was from anyone asking if I was okay. They had all gone silent, just like they had for years. That was when the anger hardened into something sharper, colder. Revenge wasn't just an idea anymore. It was a plan. I swore to myself then, they would pay. Every single one of them. Not with guns, not with fists, but with something worse, exposure. Secrets.
Lies. Shame.
I knew things about them they never thought I'd use. Rachel's affair. Michael's gambling debts. My parents' hidden accounts. They thought I was invisible, the weak one, the outsider. But I had been watching, listening, waiting. The only question was where to begin. And as I poured myself a glass of untouched wine, staring into the red liquid like it was blood, my phone buzzed again. A single message. From an unknown number. "We know what happened tonight.
And we want in.
Meet us tomorrow at midnight. Or else your family isn't the only thing you'll lose." My hand went cold. My revenge plan wasn't just mine anymore. Someone else was watching. Someone else was pulling strings. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if I was still the hunter, or if I'd just become the prey again. The message on my phone glared back at me like a warning carved in fire. "We know what happened tonight.
And we want in.
Meet us tomorrow at midnight. Or else your family isn't the only thing you'll lose." For hours, I couldn't sleep. My house felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by betrayal, by the echo of Daniel's gun, by the image of Jacob bleeding on my kitchen floor. I had fought so hard for independence, but here I was, tangled and web-spun by others. The next night I drove. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Midnight found me in an abandoned parking lot at the edge of town, the kind of place where secrets are traded in shadows. Headlights cut through the darkness. A black SUV pulled up, and 3 figures stepped out. My stomach turned when I saw their faces. Rachel, Michael, and my mother. My own family. Rachel smirked, her heels clicking against the cracked pavement. Surprised? I could barely find my voice. "You sent the message?" Michael shrugged. "Of course. We know everything, Emily." Daniel talked. "And now, you're going to share what you've been hiding all these years. The money. The house. All of it. Or," his grin widened, "we make sure you lose everything." My chest burned, but I forced myself to laugh. "Daniel? He's in jail, bleeding out. You think he's still pulling your strings?" My mother's eyes, usually so soft in memory, were hard and cold under the moonlight. "Don't be foolish, Emily. Daniel isn't the beginning. He's just a piece of it. You think you built this dream house alone?
No.
We let you. We watched you. Because we knew one day you'd be useful." The ground felt like it tilted beneath me. All those years of silence, all those dinners where I was ignored, all those birthdays they forgot. It hadn't been neglect, it had been control. Manipulation. They had let me struggle so they could pounce when I succeeded. I shook my head, fury boiling inside me. You abandoned me at my housewarming. You sold me out to a man who tried to kill me. And now you stand here, asking for my life's work? You're not family. You're parasites. Rachel stepped closer, her voice venomous. Then give us what we want, or we finish what Daniel started. And that was the moment I realized something. For 10 years, I had been building not just walls and savings but strength. They thought I was weak. They thought I would break. They didn't realize they had taught me how to survive in silence, how to plan, how to wait. I smiled. For the first time in years, I smiled at them. You want the money?
Fine.
I'll give it to you. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder. Bank statements, photos, letters, evidence. The secrets I had collected quietly, carefully, like a spider weaving its web. Rachel's affair with her boss. Michael's illegal betting ring. My mother's stolen retirement funds from her church committee. I dropped the folder on the hood of their SUV. The papers spilled out, fluttering in the wind. This, I said, my voice steady, is your money. Your greed. Your shame. Copies are already with the police, the IRS, and every person who would love to watch you fall. You wanted to ruin me?
No.
I've already ruined you. Their faces went pale. My mother's lips trembled. Rachel cursed under her breath. Michael lunged forward, but I stepped back, pulling something else from my bag, Jacob's phone. He recorded everything last night. Daniel's threats. The shooting. Every word about you selling me out. I raised the phone higher. And tomorrow morning, the world hears it. Silence.
Heavy.
Crushing. Rachel's eyes burned with hatred. You wouldn't dare. I met her gaze, cold and unflinching. Try me. For once, they had nothing to say. They turned, furious and powerless, climbing back into the SUV. Tires screeched as they vanished into the night. I stood alone in that parking lot, the folder pages scattering at my feet, the phone heavy in my hand. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the outsider. I wasn't the weak one. I was the storm they never saw coming. When I drove back to my house, the house I had bled for, cried for, fought for, I didn't see the broken glass or the bloodstains anymore. I saw a battlefield I had survived. And as I closed the red front door behind me, locking it tight, I whispered into the empty air. They saved their silence. I saved my strength. And now, I've saved my revenge. My dream home wasn't just mine anymore. It was my kingdom, my war, my victory. And they would never, ever forget it.